The absolute universe's strangest hero is here. But is he a hero? Is he a Martian? Who knows? Hey Internet, I'm Chris. And this is the place on the internet where I talk about comics, movies, games, and things I'm generally passionate about. One of my most anticipated books of the year has been absolute Martian Manhunter. Dennis Camp has been absolutely crushing it on the Ultimates. And Javier Rodriguez, I really like their Zatanna, Bring Down the House. I've seen their work in other things I can't really quite remember, but anytime I see a cover from them and interiors, it's just, really sort of like striking art that really like pops out at you. So when I found out the guy that was writing Ultimates would be writing an absolute Martian Manhunter book, I was on board. That was immediate pull. And as time went on, you just found out through interviews, through teases from Scott Snyder, that this book will be very different from what we've seen, what we know about Martian Manhunter. And after reading issue 1, I have to say, it is a complete reinvention. Before we dive too deep into that, please leave a like, comment, subscribe if you'd like to see more comic reviews. So from the jump, this book starts in an interesting place because you have John Jones, who's an FBI agent that survived a suicide bombing, and immediately after that is thrown back into work. And I have to be honest, I don't know if this is a dream, if he's imagining things. And I think sort of this book and what really makes it work between Dennis Camp's writing and then also Javier Rodriguez art is that you really sort of like back and forth between like what's going on in John's head as he's working through sort of like this traumatic experience that doesn't seem that traumatic, but there's also sort of hints of this creature. And I don't even know if you can really call it a creature. It's like an entity that you sort of identify as the Martian Manhunter that sort of also calls itself the Martian Manhunter that you learn at the end. And as these teases goes on, like it's hard to sort of like understand like what is really going on. And I sort of found that like it is the most abstract, absolute book there is. It really isn't a superhero book, at least in issue 1. And I think the reason this was plotted out as 6 issues initially, I think Scott Snyder and DC was like, hey, we love this crazy idea, but like it's really out there. And I think if you've read Dennis Camp's work, especially with the Ultimates, I mean, he was able to sort of like thread that needle between like big superhero, like bombastic, what an Avengers book needs to be, while also sort of tackling some really deep and poignant and relevant issues. And this is it feels like an indie book. It feels like he just had a book come out that it's very much in the vein of that, what Absolute Martian Manhunter is. Like you're just going through it and, he's trying to figure out like why this person committed this act, the event he was involved in the bombing at the coffee shop. Like, why do people do what they do? Why does someone who was seemingly normal wake up one day and decide they're going to strap a bomb to their chest? Why does someone like him get up every day and put on a badge when he has his family? He's all these things kind of going on and bubbling in the background. And also like Javier Rodriguez's art does a really good job of sort of like playing with your head. Like as you're reading this, you feel that you're being taken on this ride. You're on a trip along with John as he's sort of figuring out things after that event. And like, I don't even think he knows what's really going on. Like, is this a dream? He's seeing smoke as he's smoking cigarettes, but smoke is coming out of people. And is he reading people's minds? Are thoughts coming out? And what's crazy is that like with some of the Absolute books, like there's something that tethers it to the original source. Like, what this character is, what this character does. But with Absolute Martian Manhunter, outside of John being called John Jones, there really isn't anything that really ties it to it. Like there's no Mars, there's no Martian. This alien calls itself a Martian, but it's really an entity. And it was born kind of out of fire. Like John was seemingly normal before that bombing, and then the bomb goes off, and this entity may have saved his life. Like, you don't know exactly what happened. Like, are they bonded? Is John seeing things? Is he reading people's minds? I don't know, is he... It's just trippy. It's hard to understand, but like the whole book, I was really engaged in it, and I feel like it's one of those books you really have to read a second time. And as I'm describing it, it's nothing like any of the Absolute books that have come out previously where, yes, they are reinventing the typical mythos of these characters like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and then you have The Flash that recently came out. But, there's stuff that you're like, oh, like there's speed, there's there's Batman being Batman. There's Superman, being Superman. There's Wonder Woman being Wonder Woman. In this, you're like, I'm confused. Like there's parts where you're like, oh, I think that's him reading other people's minds or reading people's thoughts, but it seems like it's not reading thoughts, but more their thoughts bleeding out of them or smoking out of them. And I love that choice. And again, I understand why they went 6 issues initially, because it's like, it is a crazy idea. It is out there. It doesn't feel like a big two superhero book. And it's only a superhero book because I know who Martian Manhunter is. Like, if I picked this book off the shelf, like, I would have thought like it's some weird, like, sci-fi crime noir where maybe at the end you found out that everyone was dead the whole time. And it's dope. Like, I am really loving the fact that DC has books like this. You have something like Absolute Martian Manhunter or Rom V on New Gods, where you have these books that, could easily just be like, big toys, smashing into each other, but they're really challenging and really going to places where you're like, oh, like, this is a fun, like, this is playing with storytelling in terms of comic books. This is making me want to revisit this book. Like, I'm not sort of like reading it and then being like, okay, I can't wait till the next issue. It's like, hey, this issue alone, I'm going back to. It's hard to articulate why I like it, why I love it. I just was really almost hypnotized by the book. And the only way I could really recommend it to people that I know and you guys is that, like, hey, if you like the Ultimates, if you like 20th Century Men, you'll like this book. Trust me. And I'm down for the ride. I want to know what this is and where this story goes and where this mystery goes. And I wonder if it'll go past 6 issues. Like, I think they maybe have sort of plotted this story to unfold and the pacing to be a 6 issue story, and then possibly we'll get more. So maybe that's why sort of like this first issue is so mysterious, so out there, but we'll see. I really liked it. What did you think? Let me know. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.